Dread Pirate Roberts, or really specifically Dread Pirate Roberts, says, I recently regained a lot of mental capacity for creation after a rough patch. I'm glad. I'm really glad. They wanted to say thank you for being a huge part of that. You are incredibly welcome. My question, he says, is, well, I'm assuming Dread Pirate Roberts is a dude. What advice would you give to someone tackling a new project that they have very little or no experience with? How much research should be done, i.e. reaching out to experts, practicing, etc.? So this is a great question. And the answer is really, I can't give you a specific answer, advice for tackling a new project, but I want to give you some context. So for me, with new skills and new processes, when I am incorporating them into my practice, the way in which they always land the best in general is if I have an object that I want because of this thing. And that is usually the handle with which I can shake loose the desire to learn the skills and the will to push through the tedium. When you don't know how to do stuff, when you don't know how to do something, you can easily make the assumption that it's going to take you twice as long as it takes somebody who knows how to do that stuff. And this is something I love pointing out. Time can replace skill if you're careful. You don't need to be good at something if you have plenty of time to get good at something while you're making it. Go slowly. It took me 5 years to gunsmith my Blade Runner blaster because I just kept creeping up on it and only taking each step when I knew I was making the right step. But you're asking about a timeline. It sounds like you're saying, what advice for tackling a new project they have little or no experience with? How much research should be done? So I'm giving you this context that I usually like to have an object that I want. And therefore, the research is always the first part. I go online, I start gathering pictures. And the internet is not the compendium of human knowledge. It's the index for part of the compendium of human knowledge. And so I reach the end of the internet's ability to show me pictures of what I'm researching pretty quickly, usually in a few hours. Then I'll actually go buy media like books and magazines and stuff like that might have pictures in them. I'll go look for YouTube channels that cover behind the scenes stuff of things that I'm interested in. At a certain point in the research, I have enough stuff in the main folder, and then I go into the main folder, and so let's, whatever it may be, let's say it's stained glass, and I'll have a folder that just says stained glass, and dozens and maybe hundreds of pictures of stained glass. Then I go and look at that folder, and I'm scrolling through it, and I notice, oh, you know what, there are some categories here. There are categories of old stained glass, new stained glass where there's drawings on the pieces of glass even as they're assembled. There's multiple steps here. So then I'll start to separate into folders. Once I do that, there's usually some aspect that I'm kind of interested in, and so I'll start scratching that. Now, I've talked about this process a lot on the channel, and the having an object I desire is a great way past all the difficulties of learning a new skill, the tedium, the not knowing, the frustration. But with 3D printing lately, it's been a completely different kind of journey. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, Norm handed me a 3D print, and I was like, what made this? And he's like, oh, it's a whole new thing. And I got the bamboo carbon. I got 2 of them. We now have like maybe more than 24 printers here in my cave and the tested offices. And I haven't yet gotten what I wanted out of 3D printing until very recently. It was fascinating. So I've been exploring a few different things. I've commissioned a couple of people to make some drawings for me of objects that I want. And one of them just delivered last week, and it was a model of the St. Edward's crown. And I built this twice. I built this once out of brass, and then I looked at it and I didn't like it, and I built another one out of aluminum, and the brass one was sort of like my training to get to know it. But I got reached out to by this guy, Daniel Littlefield, and asked about something to draw, and I said, I want to draw this. And Daniel went down the rabbit hole of this. And here is our first 3D print of all of the research that Daniel did. And this will be a video, this will actually be multiple videos on Tested, and I just shot the first one yesterday. But something really interesting happened with this, which is I've been 3D printing vigorously for like 18 months now. And this is the first object that comes out of that process where I'm like, oh, something really special is happening here. And so I'm attuned to that moment of when it's time to proceed to the next step. When I started answering your question, I had this whole framework, and it's kind of not worked out the way I wanted it to, but just to let you know that, oh, right. When you say how much research should be done, I think your question implies that there's a transition between research and execution. I am familiar with this transition. Because you're wondering, do I need more research? Do I need more research? And there's always a point at which I'm gathering research. Wait, I'll do this left to right. I'm gathering research, and like I'm building my knowledge base, building, and adding stuff, separating out into folders, more folders, doing some graphic work. And then there's this moment where it starts to level off. That is where I have learned I should start making something. Whether I print it out, make it out of cardboard, or try something, that lull is a great harbinger to me that I have gotten enough research. That was a ludicrously elaborate answer to your question, Dread Pirate Roberts. I hope that was useful. How did you support that crown print orientation? Tim Jansen wants to know. This is printed in multiple parts. There is a base band, there's the fleur-de-lis and crossband, there's the two bands that go over. And so all of this was printed upright. Actually, wait, here. Here's the base band. Here's another print of the base band. So it just went up like this. Normally I use tree support. I don't like this support because it's harder to get off, but it's fine. So very little support needed for this print. I had real trouble with the cross until I printed it vertically with enough support. These files will eventually be released publicly for everyone to print their own St. Edward's crowns with, and I have specific notes on the optimal settings for each of these things. We are right now in the process of test printing 3D printed jewels on Norm's new Form 4 printer, which prints beautiful clear resin. It's really, really nice.
Thank you for watching that video. Are you as sick of the tosses to membership as I am? Good, because here's a brand new one that I recorded today, and it's nice and short. There are 3 tiers to Tested membership, and they all offer awesome stuff. Find out about it by clicking the join link below. We'll see you there.